In today's episode, we're going to be talking about lies, deceit, betrayal, and yogurt-covered pretzels. A couple days ago, Matt and I experienced our first business backstabbing. I wasn't quite sure whether or not I wanted to put this on the vlog, but I decided to go ahead with it. I'll just eliminate all the details of what actually took place, but I wanted to talk to you guys about not so much about the backstabbing portion, but the aftermath. This type of stuff happens more often than it really should. And how do we deal with situations like that? Because I feel as a society, we're not taught very well how to deal with anger, resentment, guilt, shame. There's specific steps that I take in order to deal with these fallouts when they happen. These steps are something that I've built up over the years, and I'm no expert on human emotion, but I wanted to share this with you in case it benefited anybody. Ever since I've implemented these steps in my life, it has changed the way I handle negative situations in a more healthy and positive manner. And if it can help me, I'm hoping it can help anybody else. Number one, communication. Matt and I have been together for 7 years, and out of that 7 years, Matt and I have owned a business together for 4 years. The number one question we get asked is, how do you guys manage to run a business and be in a relationship without wanting to kill each other? The honest and most genuine answer that I can give when people ask me that is, Matt and I just communicate. We communicate about everything. Whether it's good, hard, ugly, especially the ugly, we try to sit down and discuss it.
Damn, you are ugly.
We've promised each other over the years that if something bothers us, we're not going to be the type of people that just shove their problems under a rug and hopefully it goes away, because it never does. It's like a boiling pot of water. If you keep letting it boil and stew, it's just going to explode all over the place and just make this huge mess. Communication to me is the number one key to eliminating misunderstanding between two people. And when I mean communication, I don't mean that Matt just sits there and listens to me when I have an issue. It works both ways. If he has a problem, I reciprocate the listening. We do our best not to talk over each other when the other person is talking. We do our best to sit back and listen to what they have to say, even if it's boiling inside of us, where we just want to be like, wrong, 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 wrong. And because of that, I feel like we have this ability to step in each other's shoes and try to be more compassionate and understanding about why the person is feeling that way in the first place. Well, I'm willing to communicate and listen, but my partner isn't. And that's a hard one. I wish I had a straightforward answer for that, but if you're in a relationship where you can't even communicate and you feel like you have to hide things all the time, that probably isn't a healthy relationship to begin with. From there, you just have to decide what to do. Having that open line of communication makes such a world of a difference when you're dealing with somebody. And I'm not talking about just boyfriends or family. I'm talking about anything. Business partners, friends, dogs, it doesn't matter. Having that open line of communication oftentimes helps way more than it hinders. Number two, putting yourself in other people's shoes. This step is really hard to do when you're angry, because when you're angry and frustrated and all you want to do is tear somebody's head off, it's really hard to step back and be like, I know why I'm feeling this way, but why are you feeling this way, crazy person? But here's the thing, arguments, issues, all of that happens because there's a misunderstanding between two people. And being able to communicate and talk to each other and listen to the other person is great, but you also have to be able to have that open-mindedness to be like, am I wrong? What are they feeling? Because we're talking about the same situation, but both of us are angry for different reasons over the same situations. Being able to step back and listen to the other person's point of view and try to put yourself in their shoes, try to be compassionate enough to understand where they're coming from. Not only will the other person appreciate it, but you'll find that even within yourself that you're not as angry as you would be, because it's not all about you. Now it's about you, and it's about what the other person is thinking and feeling. And from there, you can look at things in a more unbiased way, which opens room for better discussions on how you can fix the problem. Number 3, allow yourself to feel the anger and the pain. Now, I'm a big consumer of self-development stuff. I listen to the gurus, I believe in the power of positivity, but I feel like the biggest mistake that people like myself, and I know I'm guilty of this in the past, is when you believe in all that power of positivity stuff, is that you feel like, you almost feel guilty when you're angry or sad, and you always try to suppress those emotions in favor of being all positive and happy. But I don't feel like that does good for anybody. As human beings, we're born with all these different emotions. We're born with happiness, anger, sadness, resentment, hurt.
Sure, we'll eat our dinner right after you eat this!
And there's a lot of learning experiences that come from each of those emotions. Trying to suppress that anger and pain, I think, is much more dangerous. As much as I believe that there is a healthy way to feel those anger and resentment and sadness, if you hold that within you, it could be detrimental. So there has to be a balance. The first time I found out a couple days ago what had happened, I was angry, I was sad, I was confused. But instead of just suppressing it and trying to be like, all right, I'm just gonna move on, I allowed myself to feel those feelings, but I gave myself a deadline because I know from the past experience that if I hold on to that anger and that resentment, that it could be very detrimental to me and my psyche. So what I did was I allowed myself for an entire day to just feel those whatever emotions, and I would just complain and rant to whoever would listen, and if I got angry, I got angry. If I got sad, I got sad. I only allowed myself a day to feel those emotions. And by the time I had ranted and raved and I went to bed, I slept soundly, and the next day, the thing that happened didn't bother me as much anymore because I allowed myself to go through the emotions of everything I was feeling, process it, eliminate it, and then get to a point where I could move on. There's that really famous quote that says, holding on to anger is like drinking potion and expecting the other person to get hurt. And that is true. Holding on to the anger is. Feeling it, processing it, and letting it go, that's healthy. But oftentimes I feel like we tend to hold on to things too long than we really need to. When something hurts you, allow yourself to feel that hurt, that frustration, that anger. Process it, and then eliminate it, and move on. Number 4, be compassionate. A lot of my friends I've talked to who aren't even involved in this situation have expressed anger and resentment and, say things like, well, I hope they choke on a dick and blah, blah, blah. But I feel like that's a really unhealthy way to look at things. Shit happens, and at that point you just have to choose to be understanding. When people do something, they don't usually think that they're in the wrong. They're doing it for a reason that they believe they need to do in order to accomplish one of their goals. And if that's the case, you just have to be like, all right, well, cool, do what you have to do. I just choose not to be involved in it. I just don't want anything to do with you or that situation. Don't feel the need to constantly berate somebody or put them down, because that just goes to show you that you're still angry and that you're still resentful. It took me one full day to process this, and I was very, very close to this person, and to have that happen was very, very painful. I put myself in their shoes. What were they thinking? Why did they feel they need to do that? I allowed myself to process that within, and then the next step for me was compassion. I don't resent them anymore. There is a lesson that I learned from the situation, and I think, at this point, I just wish them luck. I hope that whatever it is that they felt that they had to do in that moment brings them happiness and joy, and they succeed in whatever they need to do. Because understanding and feeling compassionate oftentimes gives you the strength to just let it go. Number 5, thank them. I know this is a weird concept, but after I went through all those 4 steps, the communicating, the putting myself in other people's shoes, the allowing myself to feel the anger, trying to develop the feelings of compassion, the last step for me was thanking them. Even though it was hurtful, I learned a lot from this experience, something that I probably wouldn't have learned if I hadn't gone through this. So what they gave me was a valuable life lesson that I can take for the rest of my life. Because of that situation, there are some things that have been set in place now that are going to benefit Matt and I in the next coming few months, because that was the catalyst to motivate us to make major changes in our life that we should have made a long time ago. So ultimately, even though that event was bleak and hard in that moment, we were able to take the things we learned and put it into a new idea and new possibilities. And now our future looks so much brighter than it did. So thank you for, it's going to sound petty, and I'm being genuinely honest. Thank you for causing that chain reaction to happen in our lives. Sometimes it takes moments like that to learn and to grow. I mean, thank you. Looks like I kind of have a unibrow. See? Little unibrow.